أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين. Before I begin, I would like to apologize that for the past 2 weeks I have not been able to record these discussions and these lectures. Partially because we were traveling and then I got sick, so I couldn't manage to record these lectures then. But inshallah, if Allah gives the tawfiq, we will be able to be regular from now, inshallah. So, continuing with our discussion, which we started in the previous discussion, in the previous lecture, where we were discussing and addressing this question which was directed towards us, and that is, why have we adopted this methodology we have adopted? The methodology which mentions different and discusses different and diverse opinions on a particular topic without clarifying the final opinion. Okay? So some even went further by saying this, that I flip-flop between the opinions. So I mentioned in the previous discussion that if this is the conclusion and this is the impression you're getting from our lectures, that's exactly what we want you to go out with. Okay? And the reason for that is I'm trying as much as I can as a human. We all humans are biased. Some have more biases, some have less biases, but we all have our own biases. So I'm trying as much as possible to present these discussions in an unbiased manner so that the listener can make a decision for themselves. Okay? The listeners can make the decision for themselves. And the reason for that is because Allah in the Quran very categorically condemns blind worshipping and blind following. Okay? So based on this principle, we are now going forward with these discussions, expecting a role to be played by the listeners and by the societies we are addressing, that you should be able to play also a role also. In this sense, that what we are presenting is that we are presenting the groundwork. You should further your research and then be able to choose your own opinion. So that on the day of judgment, when Allah asks you that why did you choose this opinion over that, the answer should not be that because I blindly followed somebody. No. The reason should be very, very strong as to, oh Allah, I looked at this reason, I looked at this reason, and that is why I chose this opinion over this. And that is the reason I mentioned even in the previous lecture that if the mushrikeen of Mecca, who are the Bedouin Arabs, okay? Now the new research is coming out that the Arabia which the Prophet came to was not as ignorant as it was, the way it's being presented. That's something inshallah for some other later time. But the mainstream and the common opinion is this, that the Prophet came to speak to people who are totally ignorant, okay? So if that is the case, the Prophet expected them to start thinking for themselves, then how about me and you? Okay, we have to sit down and think for ourselves, do a bit of research, and then choose our opinion. Now some would come and say that we are lay people, we don't have time and all whatnot. Now I normally say this, that will Allah accept this answer on the day of judgment? It's upon yourselves. If you can convince God the way we can convince the lawyers and the judges here in this world, if you can convince Allah that, oh, I was a lay person, then it's fine. Okay? Even though Allah opens up a chapter in the Quran, there's a whole discussion in the Quran on the mustad'afin and the weak ones. So I'm aware of that. But what I'm trying to say is that let's not call ourselves weak. It's Allah who will decide who is a mustad'af and who is not a mustad'af, and who is a lay person and who is not a lay person. Okay? This was point number one, which we made in the previous discussion. Point number two, which we said, was that we are presenting this, we are presenting an answer to the question addressed towards us by doing shikwa. Okay? This terminology which we borrowed from Allama Iqbal, where Allama Iqbal complains of the state of the ummah to Allah we are also complaining and we are taking out our heart by saying this is what the ummah is going through, and that is why we have chosen the methodology we are choosing. That's number two. And number three, so other discussions I'm keeping aside. This is where we ended our discussion, and this is what I want us to continue today. And this is a question I asked ourselves, is this, that those who are researchers, those who are scholars, those who are speakers, are they empowering their communities and their listeners, or are they over directing them and spoon feeding them? Sometimes it goes to a level that even they expect blind following from them also. Okay, this is the extent also it goes to. So this is the question which I was discussing. I gave an example partially of the Zionists and the Hasbara they do, and how they kill a whole community of people because of the propaganda and being spoon-fed and over-directed on a matter where they believe that Palestine is their God-chosen land. Okay, this was something we discussed till here. So what we want to discuss today is examples on this topic. So the whole issue of empowerment and spoon feeding can be discussed from different angles, from the Quran, from the Hadith, from the recent books which are being written, inspirational books written by Western authors. It can be discussed from various angles. What we will be doing today and in the subsequent discussions is just look at practical examples which are going through in the Ummah, and then show you that this is the direct result of spoon feeding and over directing a community. And we want to do the opposite, is we want to empower our listeners to be able to make a decision for themselves. Okay? Now, before I get into those examples and the discussion for today, there's one point, a final point I want to make. Because we'll be discussing practical examples today, what I want to make it very clear is that my intention is not to discuss these personalities or the speakers or the scholars. And that's why I'll not be mentioning their names. I'll be giving examples but without names. So nobody should ask me about the names. I know the names, I have the references, I have the videos ready with me, but I don't want to mention them. The purpose being is that I'm not discussing these personalities. I'm discussing concepts and I'm discussing content. Okay? So let's focus on the concepts rather than personalities. Okay? So come to the discussion today. What are the effects of over directing, spoon feeding, expecting blind following from them? See the effect now. Okay? Effect number one. And then in between this, I'm replying the answer to the question which, so don't forget, that's the question I'm answering. That why have I adopted the methodology I've adopted? Yeah? So point number one. You will notice that because of spoon feeding, because of over directing communities and our masses, our communities and our societies don't appreciate intellectualism anymore now. Okay? And this is not limited in the religious fields. Take any field, okay? A student who studies in a school or even in a university, they're studying for the sake of making money. Not because of thinking, not because of going towards intellectualism, okay? So take any field, take social matters, okay? If you bring up social matters, they will only be discussing issues which are status quo. Further than that, anybody else who brings any other opinion is sidelined, okay? Look at political matters, look at mental health, okay? Psychology and mental health, which is an issue today. Everything needs to be discussed the way it is being discussed by the status quo. If you just move away and give another opinion, it's not accepted. This is a sign of a dead community, as the way Shaykh Mutahari mentioned, okay? And this is a sign that intellectualism is not being appreciated. We have made up our minds and this is how we want to go with our education. Now, Unfortunately, when it comes to religious knowledge, also we have adopted the same understanding. And that is why you will notice that we hardly have conferences, seminars, discussions. Now, we have conferences and seminars and discussions, but same like-minded people sit down, discuss what they like to discuss, and go away. Drink their chai and soda and whatever, and go away. What I'm talking about is those discussions and those conferences and those seminars which are conducted in a kind of a university setup. Now, again, we are seeing the restrictions in the universities at the moment. So I'm not trying to say university is perfect, okay? What I'm trying to say is this type of and this format of discussion which is done in the universities, these are very healthy for the growth of the community, okay? Where you have a presenter who presents their opinion, and then on the side there's somebody who even critiques that opinion. And that critique is accepted very nicely and very respectfully. It's done and accepted also very nicely. Opposite to what's happening in our communities today. Just try and critique the opinion and there it goes. Okay? So these are the kind of discussions we are not having. And thus you see a vacuum of intellectualism in our community in different fields. Okay? As I mentioned, in different topics also. Now, this is not only limited to Shias, but Sunnis also go through the same issues. Other religions also go through the same issues. So, to give you an example, I remember listening to this panel of discussion where Dr. Khalil Andani, who is an Ismaili scholar and professor, he arranged this panel of discussion on his channel. It's there online if you search it. He arranged it with 3 other scholars from 3 different strands, and this is what I believe in. Okay? So whenever we want to have discussions, we should be able to have discussions with people who differ with us, and then see how we can grow or they can grow. So if we have shortcomings in our opinions, then they correct us. If our opinion is better than theirs, then theirs will fall, okay? So they will then correct themselves. This is where the growth of a community and a society is believed to be in. Okay, this is what Shaykh Mutahari also was referring to. So this panel of discussion was between an Ismaili scholar and then there was an Athari scholar. Athari meaning, now there's a discussion, are the Salafis Atharis or not, Ahlul Hadith, are they Atharis or not? That's not my discussion, but an Athari scholar. A Maturidi scholar, okay, so majority of the Sunnis today are Ash'ari, some are Ash'ari Maturidi, okay? And a 4th one was a philosopher, okay? They were discussing the whole issue of the Sifat controversy. If you're following up in the Sunni world, you will see this as a controversy which has started early in the 2nd century with the Sunnis, where they're discussing the Sifat controversy, yeah, the attributes of Allah. What interested me, and the reason I'm quoting this, is because Dr. Yasir Qadhi, who was one of the panelists, in the end he mentions this, and this is why I'm mentioning it. He says that it's very rare for us to have these kind of discussions. We hardly have these kind of discussions where scholars from different strands of Islam come together and discuss a matter. We should be having these discussions even more. And it's a year now and hardly you will see any kind of such discussions in the English speaking world, okay? So this is the type of discussions I'm talking about, and the vacuum on intellectualism. Why? Because we spoon feed. Okay? Now, look at the result now. And this result, Ayatollah Khamenei puts it very clearly and very categorically. He's addressing the seminary students. So he's now addressing the Hausa students, okay? Come and understand that those who promote the understanding that Hausa has open discussions and all whatnot. Look at the statement of Ayatollah Khamenei now. Now, I'm not trying to generalize that the whole seminary doesn't have open discussions, but you have bits and pockets who are discussing that, but the majority, because we are a product of the seminary, we will testify and we witness to this. Okay, look at what Ayatollah Khamenei says. So those lectures have now been transcribed in a book form. Now I'm quoting from that book. Notice what he says. نتیجه این می شود که وقتی یک شبهه را به صدای بلند گفت به جای این که ناگهان از 10 نفر صدای بلند شود و بدون عصبانیت و خشم جواب شبهه را بدن عصبانی می شویم. This is the point I'm trying to make. When you don't empower, when you don't equip even the seminary students. Now, whenever somebody puts up a doubt or a question against my religion or against my madhab, instead of answering that, this is what Agha is saying, that instead of answering that question academically, we start getting angry and we start fighting. Okay? This is the state of the ummah we are seeing today. So Agha goes on further by saying that در حالی که اگر دست ما پر بود چرا دعوا کنیم? A beautiful statement, okay? That if we were equipped and if we were empowered, then why should we fight? Why should we even get angry then? Okay? He says that if somebody brings up a doubt, آنگاه بلا فاصله 10-20 مقاله یا 100 مقاله از حوزه علمی قم بیرون می آید، جوابش داده می شود و تمام می شود می رود. Okay, this was exactly what was supposed to be done, and this is exactly what I'm trying to achieve from my discussions. That he's trying to say that if somebody questions, if somebody brings up a doubt, 10, 20, 100 academic papers would have been written. Where the academic papers are written, the answers are given, the matter would have been closed. But the matter doesn't get closed is because two empty vessels are making noises. Yeah, they say empty vessels make more noises. That's exactly what's happening. Okay, when you have empty vessels where you're not equipped, then you make noises instead of answering. But if you're equipped and empowered, then you have given the answer and gone forward with the whole issue. Okay, now come to the practical examples now. So again, keep in mind we're discussing that because we are not empowering our communities, we are spoon feeding them, we are over directing them. These are the results now. Okay, look at the practical examples now. As I said, I'm not going to mention names. The purpose is not names, the purpose are the concepts and the results and the consequences. Okay, so this was in the Sunni world. These examples are from Sunni world. I'll give 2 examples. There's an English speaking scholar in the Sunni world, again not mentioning his name. The video is with me. I have the video. It's a 7-minute clip. He is a product of Saudi also. So he's coming out from the Salafi background. He's a graduate from the Salafi schools also and madrasas. Strangely, he comes out. Now, he has come to the West. He is speaking English language. He's promoting tolerance. He's promoting respect of others. Some Salafis were extreme. They don't like it. Okay? So now, this issue, inshallah, if we go further, we will be discussing this. If we can get time, we'll be discussing this. It's not me saying it. This is a book by Dr. Yasir Qadhi. It's a very recent book, who himself was a Salafi to begin with. Now he doesn't call himself a Salafi anymore. He mentions the extremism of the Salafis. Okay, so it's not me saying it, it's academic work also saying how extreme some of the Salafis are. He is now, after writing this book, he's also facing the same issues by the Salafis themselves now. Yeah, so I was talking about this scholar. He graduates from the Saudi and the Salafi madrasas. He comes and promotes tolerance and respect within Muslims. Salafis who have undergone these discussions, of some of them now, in this lecture where he came to lecture, this was in England, somewhere in England. Somebody stands up from the lecture, look at the language being used now. This is where I'm trying to talk about the reason when you're not equipped, okay? When you're not equipped with and you're not empowered with knowledge, rather you're spoon-fed, a person comes out and calls the scholar a sellout. You look at the label now, okay? He's been sold out, basically. Why? And look at the reason. Allah forgive us for this, wallahi. This scholar is not calling Muslims as mushriks. Okay, this is a whole discussion. Dr. Yasser also, Qadi also discusses it. Initially also only when he discusses the whole issue of Tawheed and how it differs between the Salafis and the non-Salafis, he discusses the difference between the different strands in Islam, okay? So the Salafis are trying as much as possible to brand others as mushriks, as much as possible, yeah? Now this is where this scholar comes in now. He doesn't call, though he's a graduate of the Salafi madrasas, but he's not calling others as mushrik. So this person standing up from the crowd now starts calling this person a sellout altogether. Can you see this? Why? Because he doesn't understand. He's been spoon-fed that anybody who doesn't speak the language I speak, then this is how you should be doing with him. Okay? This is one example. A second example, again, a very recent example in Pakistan, for those of you following up, again, without mentioning the name. There's a scholar and an Islamic preacher for whom they've opened a case number 295C. So if you search on the internet, search case number 295C in Pakistan. It's the worst case a person can open against an Islamic preacher. It's the case against on blasphemy. So this scholar now and this preacher now is being accused of blasphemy by Islamic scholars themselves, while there's no trace of blasphemy in his discussions. Okay, so he gave a talk from those wordings. Again, I differ with the wordings also. The wordings he has used, I differ, and those who have spoken in support of him also have differed with the wordings. But differing with wordings is one thing. You go and accuse somebody of blasphemy, that means he's disrespecting the Prophet. A'udhu billah, a'udhu billah. Where have we reached? And why is this happening? Because of spoon feeding and over directing a community. Okay? Now look at what happens to this person. This person, there have been 5 to 6 attempts of murder on this person. This is the strange part where we reach. I'll give an example from the Quran also. It reaches to this extent when we spoon feed a people with propaganda, then they will start believing that I am the only right one, everybody else is wrong. I even have the right to murder this person. So 5 to 6 attempts of murder, Allah saves this person. 2 attempts were injurious, he got injured, and then he continued his work. So now failure to murder him, now open a blasphemy charge against him. And you know, blasphemy charge in Pakistan, the most misused law in Pakistan is on blasphemy, okay? So either it's life imprisonment or you be hanged, you'll be killed, okay? So this is what he's facing at the moment. He's still in the prison. Now, the worst part comes here. When this case was sent to Islamic scholars, apparently it's called Islamic Ideology Council, if I'm not mistaken. Strangely, these scholars also stamp and say, yes, this guy has blasphemed. When there's no trace, without any reason, without any evidence, they accuse him of blasphemy now. Okay? This is where it reaches. Okay, and this is why I'm moving away from this to be able to. The initial step is we need to empower our communities so that when they are equipped, we don't reach to this stage, okay? So look at the Quran. Let me give examples from the Quran. One example of this behavior, and then see that this is the understanding which Allah has been telling us from now and again. Now and again, Allah has reminded us in the Quran. But we are failing to wake up. Okay? So, one example, if you read the stories of the prophets, you will see this theme being repeated now and again. I'm giving the example of Musa alayhi salam, Prophet Musa, and I believe, personally, that's my opinion, that he is the most lessons to be learned from Musa alayhi salam for each and every situation for our community. And that's why he's mentioned the most in the Quran. Yeah? So this is Surah A'raf, verse number 106 onwards. So look at what the politicians do also. So those in authority, when a prophet comes up with evidences, a prophet comes up with proofs, a prophet comes up with a theory that he's trying to present that this is the truth and follow the truth, look at how people react. I'm giving the example in the context of the discussion we are having. So the first step those in authority will do is they'll try and have a dialogue. Okay, they'll try and have a discussion. Okay, so this is what exactly Fir'aun does with Musa. When Musa alayhi salam comes up with his evidences, and he tries to promote the message of truth, he comes and tells him that in kunta ji'ta bi ayatin fa'ti biha in kunta min as-sadiqin. Okay, and this is exactly what the mushrikeen of Mecca also used to do. That okay, if you are claiming something, bring your evidences. Let's have a dialogue on that. Okay, so bring your ayah, bring your signs, bring your evidences. Let's discuss. This is the first step every person in the authority will try and do. Now, in Surah Taha, verse number 56, Allah says, وَلَقَدْ أَرَيْنَاهُ آيَاتِنَا كُلَّهَا. We showed Fir'aun all the signs. This is very rare, yeah? That you see all the signs. كُلَّهَا. We showed him all the signs we could. فَكَذَّبَ وَأَبَى. But still he was defiant and he refused to accept the truth. Okay? So the first discussion where the truth is brought in front, dialogue, he fails. And they fail. The system fails. So then they come to the second stage now. The second stage now is the stage of propaganda now. Okay? So notice in verse number 109, قال الملأ من قوم فرعون إن هذا لساحر عليم. So Fir'aun with his elite and with his companions, okay, all they get into this propaganda now. This is exactly what we are seeing today also. Look at what the Zionists are doing. Initially they committed the genocide and the massacre. So what did they do? They tried having a dialogue via Holocaust and all whatnot, and saying that, okay, we suffered, we Jews were the victims, and this and this. They tried having a dialogue, failed. Their publicity stunt failed. Then they came to the second stage of propaganda now, what they call the Hasbara, yeah? The Hasbara also now failed. Okay? So this is exactly what Allah talks about with Fir'aun also. That the elite of the Fir'aun turn back to Fir'aun and tell him that Inna hadha lasahirun alim. Okay? He's a magician. He's not only a magician, but he's an expert magician. Alim. Okay? The propaganda goes on now. So he's not bringing truth to us. He's bringing some kind of magic. Not only that, يُرِيدُ أَن يُخْرِجَكُم مِّنْ أَرْضِكُمْ. Similar understanding with what the Zionists are doing. Okay? These people want to chuck you out from the land which has been given to you by your Lord. What the Zionists are using. That's the similar understanding Fir'aun and his people were also doing that. Musa and his people want to take you out from your land. Okay? Don't accept him. He wants to take you out. So the propaganda now, in the stage of propaganda, they try and adopt some kind of propaganda tools themselves. And this is where the Quran comes up with the whole issue of the magicians being called. So Fir'aun starts calling the magicians to be able to fight back with Musa alayhi salam. When that fails, comes the third stage now. And that is the stage of threatening now. You see this? Okay? So dialogue fails, propaganda fails, and this is exactly what the Zionists are facing now. The propaganda has also failed. The world is waking up. Yeah? So this is exactly, the magicians also woke up and they said, oh, we did magic, but Musa alayhi salam doesn't do magic. It's the sign from our Lord. Okay? So now the Quran says the third stage, he starts threatening. أَآمَنْتُمْ بِهِ قَبْلَ أَنْ آذَنَ لَكُمْ. Fir'aun tells the magicians, is like, how dare do you accept the truth without me giving you the permission? We have to tell you when to accept the narrative and not to accept the narrative. Exactly what the Zionists are doing. Yeah, we will tell you, listen to BBC and listen to this and listen to that, and we will tell you the narrative to listen to. Don't believe in media A and media B or media C. Yeah. إن هذا لمكر مكرتموه في المدينة لتخرجوا منها أهلها. So now these magicians are being accused of being together with Musa alayhi salam. So apparently now they're being told that, oh, you planned and you deceived us by showing that you are magicians, while you already had the plan with Musa alayhi salam. Come to Zionists again, what do? Anybody who doesn't accept their understanding, he's a Hamas follower. He's an anti-Semitic. Okay? Exactly, you see word by word these histories repeating. Yeah? Now, it goes further. The threats doesn't stop there. لَأُقَطِّعَنَّ أَيْدِيَكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ مِنْ خِلَافٍ ثُمَّ لَأُصَلِّبَنَّكُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. We will cut you off in pieces. We will then crucify you. Threats go on. Now, threats in front of the truth, it doesn't stand value. Okay, you can't threaten somebody when he has accepted the truth. Truth overcomes the threats, yeah? So the magicians don't give in. Like, truth is more important to us than the threats you are giving us. Okay? And this is where you see the Palestinian community standing up today over the truth. They're like, you threaten us, you do anything to us, we will stand steadfast. And this is one community which is teaching the world how to be steadfast today. If the world is waking up, it's because of these people today. Okay, Allah bless this. They're facing one of the worst tortures possible, but they're teaching the world to wake up. Okay, and Allah will bless these martyrs and those who are undergoing these troubles. Now, finally, what happens? So, discussion doesn't work, propaganda doesn't work, threats don't work. Finally, comes to death now, murder now. Okay, this is exactly what Allah talks about in verse number 127. The community and the elite of Fir'aun turn back to Fir'aun and tell him that أَتَذَرُ مُوسَى وَقَوْمَهُ لِيُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَيَذَرَكَ وَآلِهَتَكَ. Look at the propaganda still going on. Okay, now they're having propaganda machine within themselves. That will you allow Musa and his community to spread corruption on the earth? They're leaving you, O Fir'aun, and your gods. Are you going to allow that? Okay, and this is exactly what the discussions they have on top. Yeah. So what does Fir'aun turn back then? He says, سَنُقْتِلُ أَبْنَاءَهُمْ. Now we will turn and kill them. Okay? This is where it reaches. Now this is exactly what the Ummah is also going through. Okay? So, I wanted to go giving further examples. The final concluding statement which I want to take from Ayatollah Khamenei is here. Okay, the same statement which I quoted from him earlier addressing the Hausa students and the seminary students. His conclusion is very important, and that's what I will use this as a conclusion for my discussion today. That when you end up spoon feeding a community, okay, they can't discuss anymore. They revert to propaganda, they revert to threats, okay, they even revert to murder. Okay, now the further it goes is here. Ayatollah Khamenei says, heeft niet कि हौज़े इस्लाम व इन दीन मंतकी व मुस्तदल र मुत्तहम कुनंद कि इस्तदलाली नीस्त व शुमा अहल दावा हस्तीद. When you don't equip a community, when you don't empower them and they undergo the propaganda machine, then this is what happens, okay? Allah says that, is it not said that people are now starting to accuse Islam because of the mistakes of the Muslims? The fighting between the Muslims because they've been spoon-fed and over-directed and they're not empowered, they start fighting. What's the result? The result is now Islam being accused. Islam, which is a very logical, intellectual, ethical religion, today now it's being accused of a religion being the most illogical religion, the most unethical religion. Now when you go speak to the people, the atheists, when you tell them, you see, this is the problem we are having just now. In theory we are speaking one thing, in practice we are showing another thing. What people are seeing is the practice, not the theory. Okay? The scholars fighting, all the madaris fighting, the masjids are fighting with each other. Nobody wants to pray in the mosque of another. This is where it comes to. Islam now is being accused of what? The most illogical and the most unethical religion. While it's the best of the religions, at least according to our research. Yeah? If this is the conclusion, is it worth it now? Or it's time now we start empowering our masses and our communities and our listeners. The way they will be empowered is the answer we are giving. We are trying to offer that. We are trying to offer this answer by saying that the initial step is to be able to accept this diversity. That we all have opinions which are reasonable. Yes, we can agree to disagree on opinions. Okay? So this is the first step we are trying to achieve, and that's why the methodology we have tried adapting, it's trying to achieve this goal. Okay? Once we have achieved this goal, inshallah, if we hope to see that day, inshallah, one day, then we will move forward. Okay? We pray to Allah to give us the tawfiq to be able to appreciate diversity within ourselves, appreciate that other humans and others also have an opinion to share with us, and if they guide us, we should accept that guidance. And again, Allah help the madhlumin and all the oppressed throughout the world, inshallah, especially the people of Palestine. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.